Harsh, let's see if we can adjust that just a little bit. There, maybe that's a little better. Hopefully it's a little bit better anyway. All right, so we got a bunch of people in here tonight waiting on me, so let's get into this pretty quick here. Before we do, I'm going to give my normal disclaimers here. Adjust the camera down just a little bit more so I'm not cutting my... You guys can actually see me. There we go. Hopefully that's a little bit better. Okay, normal disclaimers here. This is a weekly live broadcast pretty much every Thursday. Sometimes things get in the way. I can't make it on Thursday evening, but most of the time I'm right here Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central Time. And I'm just here to answer your guys' questions. It's pretty much an Ask Me Anything session. The only thing I ask is that you keep it family friendly. So don't be rude with anybody. Don't be cussing. Let's not talk about politics and things like that. We're going to keep it just friendly, and I mean, we can have different opinions, and that's okay. We can still be friends, but politics is one of those things that just seems to get everybody all riled up, and we don't need that. So, all right, let's get into it then. So, oh my goodness, I got a lot of comments already. Look at that. Josh Sparks, hello. Good evening to you, J-Bid. First name, last name says the picture he's doing Smolder from the movie Tangled. Okay. I'm not sure what that is, but okay. Klaus says, hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing great. I'm the first one in my city who started with quails. 4 of my neighbors want to start. They tried meat and eggs and love them. I feel like an influencer. Sounds like you are an influencer. So, well, congratulations on that. Good evening, Jessica says, I have a question / horror story to tell you. My 7-month-old New Zealand white doe gave birth early Monday morning. By the time I arrived to the scene, and I do mean the crime scene, she had killed or injured 5 kits. They were scattered all over the cage floor. I went into action and threw the dead and dying to my dogs and put the live ones in the nest box. I took the nest box into the house and warmed the near frozen kits with a hairdryer and my own body heat. After they were warmed, I put them back in the cage and mom and put a heat lamp in just in case. Long story short, the next morning I came out to a disturbing scene again. She had eaten one and eaten the arm off another. 2 were dead in the nest, and she had used a bathroom on one, was barely alive, but not hurt by her. I took him inside, warmed him up, and fed him puppy milk because that is all we had. He went from a shriveled up kit to a fairly plump after that, so I made him a nest inside and put a heat lamp on him. We went out to get goat milk and returned to a dead kit. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. For a first time dealing with rabbit birthing, it was horrifying. I know it can happen, but I don't think she would do it after I put them back in the nest box. It was her first litter, but would you breed this doe again if it happened to you? She did not pull fur or try to make a nest herself either. Boy, I'm sorry to hear that. That is definitely terrible, and that's unfortunate, and it's really, really rare for rabbits to do that. I mean, occasionally they will eat their own young. It's just, I mean, for whatever reason, a lot of people think that's a survival instinct to, especially if one of them died already, that they're just cleaning it up so they can keep predators away. And I think there's probably some truth to that. It sounds like if it was me, the way I would handle that is I would try to breed her one more time and see how she does the next time. A lot of times those first litters are just, who knows what's going to happen there. So I'd breed her one more time. Now, if that same thing happens all over again, get rid of her, get a new rabbit. And don't worry, it's probably not going to happen again. It's incredibly rare for those kinds of things to happen. So I wish I had better news for you, Jessica, or I wish I had some kind of, I don't guess I could have good news for you. It's already happened, but chances are it won't happen again. That would be my guess, is that most of it was probably just first-time mom things. So again, I'm sorry to hear about that. George, hello to George from Oklahoma. Josh says, first-time mom. There's some discussion there. Sorry for your loss, but I would try to rebreed her. First-timers freak out. Yep, I say the same thing. Also, for a great tip, keep some extra clean hair in a Ziploc to add to the nest box if mamas don't pull fur. That's not a bad idea. Or you can even use cotton batting, or, lots of different things that you can use to cover them up with. Use something natural. Don't use a towel. Don't use something because a towel, if you cover them up with a towel, there's a good chance mom's going to jump on top of that towel, and then they're going to get trapped underneath it, and you don't want that. You want something loose that they can get through. So cotton batting, like you would use to stuff a pillow, that's a great one. Dryer lint would even work pretty well, really. All right, Sillamore says, hey, Chris and everyone from North Central Arkansas. Hello to you, Sillamore. Rainier Funk and says, and here in the winters it gets down to -40. Is that a continuation of something? I don't know. Anyway, and here in the winters it gets down to -40 degrees Celsius. So I had a spare shed and I made some cages for them in there, and it seemed to be doing just fine. I think that is a response to something else, but I'm not sure what we're talking about as what they're doing just fine for. I got to look that up because I'm a crazy American that doesn't use the metric system, so that can't be right. Is that? Hang on a second here. I got a -40. -40. Okay, -40. That makes more sense. Let's see. What does that come down to? That's like, that can't be right. So -40 degrees Celsius is apparently the same as -40 degrees Fahrenheit, and that seems awfully cold. We're still going. Make sure I didn't lose the connection there. That seems, I mean, I don't think there, maybe you're talking wind chill, a wind chill of -40, but not the actual real temperature. But either way, whatever it is that you're doing, hopefully that's doing well. I think I see, hello to you, Josh. I see a continuation there. It says, we're just wondering if I ever run out of room in the shed in the winter, if I could have some rabbits. Okay, there we go. Outside, right now I'm doing good on space, but I just don't want to put a rabbit outside if there's more to it than that. Hang on. And I don't see the reason. Okay. So you're wondering if you can put rabbits outside in that temperature. -40 degrees Fahrenheit is incredibly cold. And again, I think you're probably talking wind chill, not actual temperature. And if that's the case, it's probably not getting anywhere near that in actual temperature. And as long as you give them a wind block, or keep the wind off of them, and you're not just putting them out in a wire cage, out exposed to the elements, they should do just fine. Rabbits are incredibly cold hardy, and they actually handle the cold much better than, yeah, Josh is saying doesn't know what, okay, I'm sorry, I got distracted. They actually handle the cold much better than they do the heat. They struggle more in the heat of summer than they do in the cold of winter. So, yeah, I would think they would do just fine. Just give them a wind block. Just to give you comparison, I mean, we get down well below 0 degrees Fahrenheit, not regularly, but occasionally. And we're regularly in the teens, 10 degrees, 15 degrees. And I've had baby rabbits, and I've had, rabbits living outside in wintertime where it's, 0 degrees, -5, -10, actual temperature. And they do just fine. There's no problems with that. So let's see. Here we got. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I've got a new phone that I'm using to do the live broadcast on the first time. I haven't really tested the microphone, so somebody let me know if you guys can hear me okay. I don't see any comments saying you can't hear me, so I'm guessing we're okay, but waiting on a response there. Okay, you can hear. Good. There's a couple. Okay. All right. So give me time to get back down to the other comments. Thank you for that response. I appreciate it. All right. So student says hello to actual. Okay. Qasim says, hey, Chris, what do you think about creme d'argent breed? And I don't know how to pronounce that. I know what it is, but I don't know how to pronounce it because I think that's a French name, and I'm not French. I don't speak anything in French. But, excuse me, where was I going with that? Yeah, they're a great breed. There's nothing wrong with them. I know there's a way to pronounce that, but I don't know what it is. There's nothing wrong with those. They would be a great meat rabbit. If you got access to them, go for it. Student says, when do you wean? Okay, says, when do you wean your baby rabbits? 6 weeks, roughly. They pretty much wean themselves. So what you're going to find is that they're going to get out of the nest box 2 weeks old, somewhere right around in there, and they're going to start nibbling on mom's food and her pellets and her hay and those kinds of things. And that's common, that's normal. But by the time they're about 6 weeks old, you don't want to do it any earlier than 6 weeks. 6 weeks old is a good time to go ahead and wean them off completely if you want to, and you just do that by just moving them off into their own cage, so they're no longer have the ability to nurse. But by that time, they've pretty much weaned themselves right at about 6 weeks. Younger than that, it's a little bit dangerous. They really still need to be able to nurse off mom a little bit, but right at 6 weeks or a little bit older is fine. You can go ahead and do it. All right. Hey there, Hunter. Good to see you. Bleaken, I don't know what that name is. Bleak Unending, I think is what it is. Bleak Unending. Okay, says, hey Chris, I just made a comment on your last weekly broadcast and then logged out and saw you're now live. I saw a comment come through. I get emails whenever comments get posted on the on a video. So even if I don't get a chance to respond to them, I usually see all the comments that come in. I saw your comment. I was hoping that you'd see that, we weren't live yet, that we were going live and you could jump in here. I don't remember what the comment was, though, so I know it was a question, and I meant to say, oh, let's talk about it on the broadcast, but I haven't done that yet. So if you've got that, just go back and copy and paste it if you want to in here. I'll get to it in a second. Pierre says, loving the fashion again tonight, Chris. How is your peg-legged quail doing, if it's alive, and how is your family? Well, thank you. Yeah, I just came from work today, so this is a shirt I wore to work. This is an old shirt. I probably need to get another one. It's one of my favorites, though. It's very comfortable. And anyway, yeah, the peg leg quail's doing just fine, actually. Kind of surprised he's still going, but he's still doing just fine. And family's doing well, so thank you for asking. I appreciate that. Hello to you, Boris. Keith says, have you ordered seeds for next year? No, I have not ordered seeds for next year yet, for spring. I guess it's this year. We're already past the new year. I haven't ordered any seeds for spring. I got to go through and see what I've got and what I need. I think I'm okay. I don't think I need to order any, but I may order a few just in case, because it just doesn't feel right not to order seeds in the spring. I don't know. Marie says, hello from Buckeye, Arizona. What kind of seeds are you planting now indoors? I'm not planting anything right at the moment. And I'm going to be doing my winter sowing again, I think, this year. It worked out so well last year. So I'll have videos that go on that. That'll probably be mid-March, maybe late March. The only thing, I planted them, I think, at the beginning of March last year, and the only thing I have problems with is that they took off and grew too well. So I used little milk jugs that put in the garden and planted them right in the ground, cut a hole in the milk jug. But the only problem I had was I grew out the top of the milk jug before it was ready to uncover them and unprotect them. So I'm going to start a little bit later this year. But we'll see how it goes. All right, I see a couple of comments directed at other people, so I'm going to skip those. I'm going to let you guys feel free. Talk to each other if you want to. It doesn't bother me, but don't be offended if I don't see that comment. I'm going to skip it so I can get to the other ones, because I assume you're having conversations back and forth between each other. So Robert says, both my does delivered their second time, 15 new babies. Both are averaging 7 to 8 kits. Is that a good, or should I expect bigger numbers as my does grow? 7 to 8 is a pretty good number. There's a chance that they may increase a little bit. I really consider anything from about 7 to 10 is really good. 10's a big litter. It's on the rare side. My doe usually has 7 to 9, somewhere right around in there. But so 7 to 8, that's a pretty good number. I wouldn't complain about that too much. You may get some litters as they get a little bit older with a few more extra kits in them here and there. So, good luck. Hopefully it does. Kentucky Green Thumb, hello to you. Hunter says, so when you breed your doe, that the first day to start counting the day. Okay, is that the first day to start counting the days? Good question. Yeah, I think so. Yes, I always mark the day that she's bred, and then 30 days from there is when I expect her to have her babies. Okay, Bleak Unending says, I wanted to ask what the noise tolerance of quails. Okay, I remember that. You were saying, yeah, let me just read your comment. I have neighbors whose dogs bark at night pretty loud sometimes. I'm wondering if you would wake up or stress the quail out, or could they adapt? You know what? I have neighbors that she has this Great Pyrenees and they're super nice people, friendly neighbors. I'm not really complaining. It's going to sound like I am, but they have a Great Pyrenees. If you know anything about Great Pyrenees, they're livestock guardian dogs. So they bark at everything. And that dog barks all night long, all night, nonstop, just nonstop barking all night long. It doesn't really bother me too much. I go right to sleep and I sleep right through it. But if I wake up in the middle of the night, the dog's barking. And when I wake up in the morning, the dog's barking. It's always barking. And then they got another one. So now they have 2 Great Pyrenees barking all night long. So again, it's not really that big a deal to me. I sleep through it, no problem. But it doesn't bother my birds at all. They're not right out on the roadway. So it's not like, cars are going by flashing lights in their cage all night long or any of that kind of stuff. But, we have traffic on our road. Cop cars go by occasionally, or a fire truck or something like that with sirens going. And none of that seems to bother them at all. They seem to adapt to that pretty well. And interestingly enough, a couple of weeks ago when we had the ice storm, and I made the video about the skies falling, all the ice falling off the trees, that didn't seem to bother them a bit either. It was falling right on top of their cage, that metal roof, just bang, bang, bang. Wasn't no problem. They didn't seem to mind it at all. They didn't act all freaked out. So yeah, I would say they'll adapt to it. It's not going to be a worry. Kentucky Green Thumb said, I had 100% hatch rate on Christmas Day. Wow, that's pretty good. Then I had a problem with one chick a weekend. It died. Then I had 2 chicks die within 15 minutes of each other within 2 days. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It does happen from time to time that you lose chicks in the brooder box for whatever reason, even though they may have, had a successful hatch. They may have been weak. They may have just barely hatched out there's a number of different reasons. Sometimes you're better. I mean, if we're only talking 3 chicks, and I don't know how many you hatched out, but if we're only talking 3 chicks, sometimes it's better to just count it as a sad loss and move on and not worry about it too much. 100% hatch rate's like incredible. So you did something right there. You're doing a good job. To lose a couple, I don't know that I'd worry about it too much. All right, so Blake Unending goes on to say also the cars driving by. I said, yeah, I think I addressed that part, but says, if quails get to be too stressed by that, do you think rabbits and chickens could cope? Your videos are a blessing. Thank you. Well, thank you for the kind comment. My neighbor's got chickens, and the dogs are out there barking all night long. The chickens are fine. My rabbits, it doesn't bother my rabbits at all. They adapt to that stuff pretty well. As long as you're not like in their cage, like messing with them in their face, they adapt to all those things. You're not going to have to worry about it. All right. There's another comment to somebody else. Kasim, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right, says, hello, Chris. Is it okay to breed Holland Lop rabbit with a big rabbit? Let's see. I don't know how big are Holland Lops. I kind of forget. I think you could breed a Holland. Let me look at that up real quick. I always forget. I'm not a lop-eared rabbit guy. So let's see. Holland Lop rabbit. Wait. Let's see what that comes up to. 2 to 4 pounds. No, I would not breed a 2 to 4 pound rabbit with a 10-pound meat rabbit. I don't think that's a good idea at all. That's a big. Now, if that was the buck and you're bringing it to a 10-pound doe, if he could get the job done, I mean, that'd be okay, I guess. But I would not breed a 3-pound doe to a 10-pound, California or New Zealand or anything like that. That's just too big of a difference there. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that anyway. But if you want to, I mean, I guess you could try it, see how it goes. All right, Settle Poultry says, hey, my one quail is looking like a cotton ball. I think she's dying. What do I do? I'm sorry to hear that. She's looking like a cotton ball. I'm not sure. There's not enough information for me there. And unfortunately, a lot of times when rabbits get sick, it's just very hard to tell exactly what it is. The things you might look for, the common issues with rabbits, snuffles, and you would notice like discharge, sneezing. It's going to look like a cold, like a respiratory illness of some kind. Probably some sneezing, some nasal discharge, some of those kinds of things. That's incredibly hard to treat. The other thing, that's probably the most common thing. Excuse me, coccidiosis is a parasite that could be causing problems. That's not uncommon in rabbits. What you're going to look for there is, she's losing weight, lethargic, look at her stool, and diarrhea. Those kinds of things can be pretty serious with rabbits as well. And without knowing specifically what it is, I can't really tell you exactly what to do. If it's an incredibly important rabbit to you, it might be time to see a vet. That's probably the only way you're going to get a for sure, and even then not for sure, but like a proper diagnosis and proper treatment on that. I clear my throat out here. All right, John says, enjoyed your photography videos. Also a passion of mine. Well, thank you, John. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's photography is one of those things that I get really serious about for a while, and then sometimes I kind of let it slip a little bit, and then I get really serious about it for a while again. So thanks, I appreciate that. I don't know if I'll be doing much more of those. I mean, I don't want this to become a photography channel necessarily, but what I am trying to do is to just share a little bit more of my life with you guys and who I am outside of just rabbits and quail. I'm still going to do those videos, but I want to have other videos up there for you guys as well. So, Aniela says, hello from very warm but wet Melbourne. That's all the way across the world from us. Thanks for joining. It's got to be like, what, like 2 in the morning or something there, doesn't it? Like early morning. Thank you for staying up. I appreciate it. Why don't they write? Says a question for you, sir. How do you treat that's a hard word. Conjunctivitis in rabbits. Good grief, that's a hard word. Let's see. I don't think it's spelled right. There we go. Yeah, Conjunc. There we go. That's okay. I spell things wrong all the time. Look at that. There's a $10 super chat, $9.99 super chat from Hunter. Says, thanks for all the info. Glad to say, got my first doe bred today. First breeding ever. My rabbits and quail are a product of this channel, and happy I found this channel. Well, thank you so much for the kind comments there and the super chat, and fantastic. Congratulations. Okay, so conjunctivitis, I think I got it right, is a eye infection, generally considered an eye infection in rabbits. And hang on a second here, I gotta get something back fixed. Okay, so your best bet is to get antibiotics, some kind of, probably an antibiotic ointment or something like that. You're probably gonna have to talk to a pet supply or a farm supply store or a vet or something like that to get it, because you need antibiotic stuff to treat it in most cases. That's really it. I mean, you're going to apply eye drops to the rabbit or whatever antibiotics that they give you to treat it with, and it'll have instructions on how to treat the rabbit with it. One thing I would do for sure, though, is make sure you isolate that from all your other rabbits. You don't want it anywhere near them. That can be contagious. You don't want to pass that on to your other rabbits. So put it in solitary confinement, isolated from everything else. I'd say at least, 60, 70 feet away. And then get, like I said, check with a farm supply store or a veterinarian in your area, and get like a antibiotic eye ointment or something like that that you can use to treat that with. All right, hopefully that helps, and good luck with that. I hope it fixes it. Now, if you're, only other thing I will say is if you're talking about like a baby rabbit, that may just be nest box eye, and nest box eye is pretty common in young rabbits up to about 4 weeks old, somewhere right around in there. And that's actually pretty easy to treat. So what I do is I get a chamomile tea and brew a cup of tea, and then use that, and with some honey in it, and then use that tea bag, dip it in that tea, squeeze it out a little bit, and use that to clean their eyes. And usually you can do that once or twice a day for a couple of days, and then it just clears up at that point. Hopefully that helps. All right, Ricky says, we are looking for property around the Springfield area and probably a little east. Is that the area you're in? Leaving warm Florida? Okay, so I'm assuming you're leaving Florida. That's what you're saying. You're leaving Florida looking for, yeah, I live in, I live west of Springfield, quite a ways west of Springfield. I'm in Joplin, so it's in the very southwest corner of Missouri. We're about an hour drive from Springfield. It's not that far, but, that's a nice area. Ozarks, just east of Springfield's pretty nice too, and all that. I like it all. So you can't go wrong there, I don't think. All right, Owen says, hi, how are you doing? I'm doing well, thank you. Tuna Town says, have grown my quail from 9 to 71. Wow, that's big. That's a lot of quail. Plan on processing quite a few roosters soon. Just wanted to update you and let you know I've gotten a lot of good advice from your channel. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And congratulations on all your new quail. And then Jack's got a bunch of, it looks like some kind of Oriental writing. I don't know what it says. And then some other language, which I don't know what that means either. So, sorry. Aniela says, going back to quails, the temp to hatched eggs. What? Going back to quails, the temp. I think, are you asking me, like, what temperature do you use to hatch quail eggs? If that's the case, it's going to be, you want like 99.5 degrees in a forced air incubator with a fan on it, or 101 degrees in a still air incubator. And that's pretty much the standard. I mean, that goes for chicken eggs, duck eggs, I mean, any of them. The difference is the amount of time that you incubate them. But all of them are going to be pretty much right at 100 degrees. Fahrenheit, by the way. Zach says, hey y'all, how's it going? It's doing well here. Hopefully you are too. And Rod says, how is Max doing? You fixed the fence yet? Kind of. I mean, I need to take some better advice. A lot of you guys recommended I put like a piece of a pool noodle around it, which I think is a great idea. I just haven't done it. What I have done, though, is made a conscious effort to make sure I stand in front of that post when I go to open the gate and let him out. And I'm also more conscious of if he's all wound up, I tell him to wait. He's pretty good. He'll wait until I get outside to let him out. So I don't let him just get all wound up and go bolting out that gate as soon as I open it. I stand on the other side of it. This is kind of hard to explain. Hopefully it makes sense. But the time he hurt himself, what happened was I was standing, like, here's the post. I was standing here on this side of it. So when I opened the gate, he ran around that post. So now I'm standing here against the post and opening the gate this way. So he goes around me to go out. So hopefully that makes sense. So I've done a couple of things, but no, I haven't really fixed it. All right. Johnny says, hello, question, if you please. Oh, by the way, he's doing fine, though. He's pretty much completely healed up. He's still got a little bit of a bald spot on his side. No hair's growing back there. It's a scar, but he's doing fine. All right, so back to you, Johnny. Hello, question, if you please. Fighting males, what is your solution? I'm assuming you're talking about quail. You know, anytime when quail come of age, especially, they are going to be a little bit of aggressive. And it's not necessarily aggression, it's just hormones. And they'll calm down a little bit if you just give them a little bit of time. Now, if it's so bad that where they're, you know, pecking out the eyes of the other birds or, you know, doing a lot of damage to them, you know, plucking their head clean of feathers, that kind of thing, then you might want to find the aggressive birds. Probably it's only one or two of them. And just what I do is I eat them. But you can do whatever you know, separate them from the rest of the birds. And because there's probably just one or two that are more aggressive. Now, if you've got a whole bunch of males together and they're getting aggressive, a lot of that can be because they're looking for females. They just came of age. They're starting to crow. They're starting to look to breed. They're looking for females. So one thing you can do is you can reduce the amount of light on them. Get that down below 8 hours a day, even if you have to cover the cage up to make it dark in there. And they'll go out of breeding mode in a week or two, and that'll calm them down significantly. So those are a couple of solutions that you can do. All right, Jay Wick says, fingers crossed, hopefully 2 litters of rabbits due tomorrow. We lost the last 2. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Good luck with your next litter. Hopefully they all do well. I just had babies born yesterday. I got video coming out Monday to show you guys all that. Hey, Linda, good to see you. I'm doing well, thank you. Rainier says, yeah, normal temp is negative 20 degrees Celsius in the winters, so I'm just trying to do my best for them. So negative 20 Celsius is the normal, and you're talking, let's see, I got to look that up too. Negative 4, okay. That's negative 4 degrees Fahrenheit. That I can believe, yeah. Good into grief, where do you live? Make sure, you know, let me know where you live so I know not to go live there, because if that's the normal temperature in the winter, that's too cold. We get that cold, but we don't stay that cold for long periods of time. Like it was like 50 degrees today, Fahrenheit. And now it's going to get cold tomorrow. We're supposed to get some snow, but still not going to be that cold. Anyway, Josiah says, yeah, I'm finally in alive. Hope you're doing well, Chris. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Josiah. I am doing well, and thanks for joining the live broadcast. Where are we at here? We got a couple of comments to other people. Pete's Worldwide Reptile says, how delicate are rabbits? Well, it's I guess, I mean, how do you compare that? They're not really that delicate, and as long as you're not, I mean, they can startle pretty easily. If you, and I say pretty easily, it's not really a big concern. Let's see, how do I explain that? If you put them out on the ground, you let your dog chase them around for a little while, then they can stress out pretty easily and they can die from that. But in their cage, loud noise may startle them or something like that. That's not a big concern. They're not really that delicate. I don't know exactly where you're going with that question, but they're pretty hardy animals. They're okay. Anyway, Rod says, didn't know you read Chinese. No, I don't read Chinese. I don't even know if I could tell Chinese from other, I don't read it at all. Oh, in terms of stress is what you're saying, Pete. They're not overly stressful animals. I guess that kind of depends. I mean, what's going on if you got little kids coming up and poking their fingers in at them all the time, that may stress them out quite a bit, but I've never had problems with them being overly stressful. All right. Eric says, I have quail fighting. I don't know why. So far, 2 hens and 2 roosters have been injured. 1 died. It's been 1 quail per day injured in the last 3 days. Yeah, that sounds, I mean, there could be a number of different reasons for that. Quail in general can be somewhat aggressive. A lot of times that's your hens that are more aggressive than the other birds, and they're just trying to establish a pecking order. So when you say, one of them died, so apparently it was pretty serious with that one. But the other ones that are just being injured, how are we doing on time? Yeah, we got some time. The other ones that are just being injured, I don't know how serious those injuries are either. So, all right, so let's see. If they're reasons that quail fight, if they're new birds, like you got birds from different suppliers or whatever, and you just put them all together in one cage, they're going to fight like crazy. New birds, it's really hard to introduce new birds to an established flock without them fighting. Now, I've had really good luck with taking babies, 3 weeks, 4 weeks old, putting them in with adults and letting them mature at that point, and then they do just fine. The other things I found is that all the different colors and different, like, you've got Italians and, A&Ms. They're probably English whites, actually, but everybody calls them A&Ms. You've got tuxedos. You've got all those kinds of things. And then you've got standard brown color. I found the standard brown color is a more docile bird. I don't have nearly as many fights with them. When I had tuxedos, when I had the white quail, when I had any of those seem to have a lot more problems with aggression and fighting with each other. So, and what you may want to do at that point is try to reduce the number of birds you got. Make sure they've got plenty of space to get away or to get around. Give them some places to kind of hide. You can reduce the amount of light that's on them, so you can get them kind of out of the breeding mode, where the hens stop laying eggs, the roosters stop crowing. That'll make them a little bit more docile and calm them down just a little bit. A lot of times, if you just give them a little time, if it's not too bad of an injury, they'll work it out, and it shouldn't be a big deal. Or if you can just identify, there may just be one bird in there that's the aggressor that's going after all the other birds and pecking at them, and that's probably the case. And then you just remove that one bird. And like I said, what I do is I eat them, but you can do whatever you want with them. Just remove that one bird and you may not have any more problems. So you should be able to tell that just by observing. Just watch them for a little while and see which bird is it that seems to be pecking on the other one. Now, what you are going to notice is that if you get a bird that's wounded, has an open wound on it, a lot of times the other birds are going to go after that too. And that doesn't necessarily mean aggression. That's just, they just tend to do that on an open wound. So I wouldn't, I would look for the one bird that seems to be the aggressive one. You should be able to identify it. You should be able to figure that out pretty easily. And you might remove that bird from the cage for a couple of days and see if all the, if all that stops. If it doesn't, then you may have more than one bird in there that's aggressive. I'm not sure how many birds you've got in there. So, if it may not be a big deal to just remove 2 or 3 birds if you have to. There's a couple of ideas. Hopefully that kind of helps. All right. Danielle says, no, it's Daniel. Sorry. Daniel says, hey, man, I have a question. When should I move my baby rabbits to a separate cage? And if you mean separate them from the mother, 6 to 8 weeks. Don't do it before 6 weeks old. That kind of goes back to when we should wean rabbits. When they hit 6 weeks old, at that point, anytime after that is a good time to go ahead and move them. Now, if you're talking about separating out like your males from your females in a grow out pen, I tend to do that before 12 weeks. Right about 12 weeks is when I find that they'll want to start doing some breeding behavior. They're not quite ready to breed at that point, but still it's possible that they could mature a little bit early, and it's too young to have a rabbit bred. So avoid all, and not only that, but their brothers and sisters, in a grow out pen, usually you don't want to breed brother and sister together. So I do that about 11 weeks, try to get them separated before they hit 12 weeks old. All right, Kasim says, hey, Chris, what's a better breed, the New Zealand White or the California Rabbit? I don't know that either one of them is better than the other one. They're both fantastic meat breeds. I couldn't tell you that one's better than the other. All right, Todd says, hey, Chris, from Crete, I'll have you had to deal with tilted head in your sorry, I'm trying to make sure I understand the question. Are you talking about rabbits, like a kit with a tilted head that its head's tilted, or are you talking about quail? Two different things. In quail, that's usually called wryneck. In fact, a lot of times I call that in rabbits too. But in quail, it's generally there could be a number of different reasons for it. Excuse me. Grab another drink here. The most common issue when you get wryneck in a baby quail that's just hatched is probably a little bit of a low incubator temperature. So I just saw that, Gator. So maybe I just haven't gotten to you. Give me a second here, okay? Maybe a few minutes. We got a lot of comments coming in tonight. So I'm doing my best to keep up. Give me a second here. Okay, where are we at? Tilted down. Okay, wryneck and baby quail. Usually that happens right after they've hatched, and it can be a low incubator temperature that causes that. And there's a, what is that, $4.99, 4 pounds and 99. I don't know if you call that 4 pounds 99. Anyway, a super chat from Tanya Rice. Thank you, Tanya. I appreciate that so much. That's so very kind of you. Okay, so a low incubator temperature, and that means that your birds are developing a little bit on the slow side, so they didn't get enough, they don't really have enough strength to they just didn't develop right. You can also end up with things like splayed legs from that, all that kind of stuff. So that's usually a big indicator of that. It could be a vitamin deficiency. So thiamine and vitamin E, I believe, are the 2 vitamins that are going to be most helpful with curing that. That's usually going to be something if it presents itself after the chick is a little bit older, 4 or 5 days old. If they start to develop that wryneck at that point, then it points more towards a vitamin deficiency. Now with rabbits, it can be the same thing. It can be vitamin deficiencies. It can be it could be injuries to them that cause that. It could be ear infections that cause those kinds of problems too. I've never had that problem in a rabbit, but I have seen that it happens from time to time. So Todd, I hope that answers that question for you and gave you a couple of ideas anyway. Student says you should order Seeds ASP. They're out of stock in a lot of places. Yeah, I probably should look into that. Thank you for the advice, by the way. I appreciate that. Rhonda, good to see you, Rhonda. Family's doing well. Thank you. Rainier says, I'm also thinking of getting quail here in town too, but I don't know how loud they are. And that's the main reason I have rabbits, but I would like to grow my own food. I don't think that I don't think quail are that loud at all. It doesn't bother my neighbors at all. The females do make a little bit of noise. The roosters do crow, but they sound like songbirds. And unless somebody sees them, they're probably going to think there's some kind of songbird. None of my neighbors have complained. It hasn't bothered them at all. But, I don't know your neighbors. So if they're, picky, cranky people, they may find a reason to complain either way. So it's going to be after something that you're going to have to think about. But, my one neighbor that lives, my quail hutches are right there by his backyard. He saw me out there messing with him one day, and he came out and asked me, what do you have in there? And I told him. He said, I heard those. I just thought they were birds. And then one day I realized you had some cages out here, and I figured you must have something in there. So he didn't know that they were even quail. He could hear them, but he just didn't know I had quail in a hutch. All right. Rhonda says, we just got over COVID. Quail just started to lay eggs. Super excited about that. Well, I imagine you're excited about being over COVID and the quail laying eggs. I'm glad to hear you guys made it through okay. And sorry you had to deal with that, but glad it's over. All right, Sillamore says, y'all hit the thumbs up for Chris. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Peach World says, is one fall off enough if it's all you can get in a New Zealand? Yeah, one fall off's usually enough. I always like to try to get 2 or 3 just to make sure, but if you get one good fall off, I would assume that doe is pregnant, and I would count on her having babies in 30 days. All right, Josiah says, I have an incubator. My dad said that we will order quail eggs soon. Awesome. Congratulations on your new incubator. Good luck with your hatch, too. Backyard Survivalist says, we'll be trying rabbits this year. Thank you for all the information you provide. Well, good luck with your new rabbits, and thank you for watching the videos. I'm glad you're finding them helpful. Zach says, hello, Chris. Been a few weeks since I caught a live stream. Can you let me know where you get your quail food? I'm local to you and usually buy from Atwoods, just trying to find another place to get it. Atwoods isn't bad. If I only need one bag of quail food, like in the winter when I've got low numbers, a lot of times I just go to Atwoods and get it because I think it's what, $16 a bag or something like that. Maybe 17, I don't know. But if you are looking, if you need, if you're going through quail food pretty quick, you got pretty high numbers. M&F, is it M? I always get this. Hang on a second. I got to look this up. Maybe it's M&A. M&. I got to look this up. Hang on a second. It's MFA. There we go. MFA Agri Services in Neosho. They sell a 30% game bird feed for $13. There you go. Marie Scott got it for me. I always forget that, and I think Marie's the one that always reminds me of that. But anyway, MFA in Neosho, Missouri, they have a 30% game bird feed. They mill their own feed, and it's $13 a bag. So it's a pretty good deal. And a lot of times, especially when I've got bigger numbers of quail in the summer, and I'm going through food a little bit faster, I'll run down there. It's worth the drive to pick up like 4 or 5 bags at a time. All right. Shell says, glad to see you. I have 2 questions. Why don't quail hens go broody? Also, occasionally I have a sudden aggression and have had to cull because of injury. Any thoughts as to why this would happen? It's just something you deal with quail every once in a while. I don't know when you asked the question if you heard me talking about it earlier, but it may have something to do with the breed, I guess you call it, of quail. So if you have something besides the standard brown color, the wild brown colors, I find those birds to be a lot more aggressive. I think it probably has to do with the inbreeding that produce those gene mutations, that produce those color strains. That's just a guess. I'm not a genealogy or a gene expert or whatever you call that, but that's just a guess on my part. That a lot of times whenever you go to, that's how you get here. Let me grab a drink here. That's how you get those different color combinations. Is that you inbreed, you breed. Very selective breeding to isolate that gene that causes that color mutation to make it a tuxedo or a white or a whatever. And a lot of times there can be other traits that go along with that. So that's my opinion on why that happens. But then again, sometimes you just have a bird that just goes crazy for whatever reason. It happens with chickens. It happens with pretty much all birds. As far as why they don't go broody, they will go broody if you give them the right conditions. I've heard a lot of people have really good success with like ground dwelling, giving them large aviary type setups where they're on the ground. Have really had really good success with birds laying eggs and hatching out their own eggs that way. I shouldn't say really good, moderately good success with that. But for the most part, they're so domesticated that they just don't tend to go broody. Especially if you keep them in a cage system, it's just a little bit unnatural for them, I think. So even the ones that do talk about their hens going broody and hatching them, they again have moderate success with them actually hatching out their own, and they're not going to hatch very many at a time. You're talking 6 or 7, maybe 10 at the most, I would think, at a time. So anyway, there's a couple of thoughts on that. Hopefully that is helpful. Yeah, Josh is assuming for Shell that you may have too many males. It's a possibility, but unlikely. Most of the time, your aggression, a lot of the time it comes, and well, that's true. I mean, if you have too many males, there could be problems, because what happens when you have too many males is that they do tend to compete over the females, and they may start to beat each other up. It's not really that common. What is more common is that they overbreed the females. So you end up with all your females have no feathers on the back of their head because they're just getting bred nonstop because you have too many males. And what may happen there is that you may have a hen that gets fed up with it, so to speak, and she starts fighting back to kind of put them in their place. But the hens tend to be, in my experience, the more aggressive ones. Usually if I have an aggression problem, it's almost always a hen. Not always, but almost always. Lonsdale says, what is the procedure to become a pedigree breeder? Well, you would have to get pedigree rabbits and breed them. I mean, that's pretty much it. I'm not an expert on how pedigrees work. But I know that, if you buy pedigree, and check with like a 4-H club or something like that in your area, the chances of pedigree rabbits, or, state fair, if you have one of those, you're going to have a better chance of getting pedigree rabbits. But that's what you're looking. I mean, you get pedigree rabbits that have papers, you get other pedigree rabbit that has papers, you breed them together, they're the same breed. Well, then you have pedigree offspring, and you can trace that down through the papers. You're going to have to look into it somewhere probably besides here, because that's not something I do, so I don't know that I can explain it completely. But you don't have to get any kind of special license or any of those kinds of things. So hopefully that helps. All right, Mariama, anyway, says, you inspired me on the rabbit cage. Now mine are doing great. Well, awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And congratulations. Crystal says, do bobwhite quails lay eggs in the winter? I've never kept bobwhite quail, but, if you keep enough light on them, I would assume they would lay eggs in the winter. I know Rhonda kept bobwhite quail for a little while. She might be able to answer that a little better. Bobwhites are not as prolific layers as Coturnix are. So you're not going to see the egg production that you see out of a Coturnix quail. It may be a little harder to keep them laying, but light is really the key to getting any bird to lay eggs. 18 hours a day of light. So if you keep that on them, I would assume that you're going to get some egg production out of them in the winter as well. Josiah says, my cousin's dog is half Great Pyrenees, and he is barking randomly. Still love him. Yeah, they're not bad dogs. And I sound like I'm complaining because, well, I'm not really complaining. They don't bother me. They're friendly dogs, and I don't mind them at all. But yeah, they do bark all the time, just nonstop, everything. And I get why. I mean, that's what they are. They're livestock guardian dogs, so they're supposed to be alerting you of things going on. Well, they're in the city. There's always something going on. There's always somebody walking down the road, or a stray cat, or something going on. So that's what they're barking at. But still, it's just all the time. All right, Pesca. Pesca y mas. Tercer Mundo. I don't know what all that means. Something. Anyway, says, hello, Chris. I hope you're doing well. I am. Thank you very much. Shell says, my ratios are 1 male to 5 females. Sounds like a pretty good ratio. That's about right. So you may just have a crazy bird in there or something. I wish I had a better answer for you. We know his voice says, repent of your sins, turn to Jesus, people, obey his teachings, and live by them. God bless you all. Well, yeah, I don't disagree with that. It just seems kind of like a random weird comment in here. I am a Christian. You guys probably already know that as well, but that does seem like a weird random comment to me. No offense to you. I don't mean it that way. But all right, Robert, how are you? Good evening. I'm doing well. Thank you. And yep, God is good. I agree with you on that too, Josiah. Bleak Unending says, Chris, you have it worse than me with the barking. What a relief to hear that quail are such warriors. And another greeting from the ancestral homeland, Ireland. Hope you get here one day. Yeah, I'd love to visit Ireland. I do. I'm mostly Irish, not all. I mean, we're all mixed breeds here. And I don't know. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other stuff in me, but I'm mostly Irish. My last name, Carnes, is an Irish name. My mom's last name, her maiden name was Ardrey. That's an Irish name. So we both, my sisters traced genealogy back to Ireland. So yes, I would like to visit someday. Eric says, what's the brand name of the rabbit feed you use? Thanks and God bless. Oh, I don't know what the brand name is. I get it from the local feed store and I just say, give me a bag of rabbit feed. I think it's like H&M Farms or something like that. I don't remember. I don't know that the brand's really all that important. What I would suggest if you're looking for rabbit feed or something, try to find a local feed store. You're going to generally get better prices there than you would through like a big box store, like an Atwoods or a what's another one? What else do you get? Tractor Supply or any of those kinds of things. All right. Shell says it isn't overcrowding either. It doesn't happen frequently, but it has happened a handful of times where all the birds suddenly don't like one bird and nearly beat it to death. There could be something to that, Shell. I've had that kind of thing happen before. And just like you said, just every great once in a while, out of the blue, they just kind of beat up another bird. And I think a lot of that may have to do with like some kind of illness in that bird. I think they sense that when there's weakness in their ranks, so to speak, and it's probably caused by illness or something like that they want to get it out of there. So, that may be it. It may not be really that big of a deal to worry about if it doesn't happen on a regular basis. All right, Charles says, hey, Chris, rabbit question. What's the opinion on rebreeding after litter, 4 to 5, 6 weeks? My doe does not want to rebreed while the babies are not weaned. Well, you may have to give her time. I know a lot of people do pretty intensive breeding 2 weeks after she's had her babies. That's a little too tight for me. What I would like to do is do about 4 weeks at the earliest. So she's had her babies for 4 weeks. They're going to be 2 more weeks before they're weaned and off of her. So I'll breed her at that point. 2 weeks later, I will move the babies off, and then she has 2 weeks before she has babies again. So I find that works pretty well when I'm looking for fairly intense breeding. If you can't get her to breed, that may be a little tricky. Some does won't. It may be a survival thing. Maybe she realizes she just can't handle another litter at that point, you may have to wait till they're weaned. But you can wean them as early as 6 weeks, so that might be a good time to do that. All right. Pete's World says, my rabbit was sneezing. I think it stopped, but I was wondering if you think he could have been sick. Well, he could have been, or he could have just got some hay in his nose or something like that. If you just saw him sneeze a couple of times, I would assume that it's no big deal. If it was a regular thing that was happening, if they're sick, you're usually going to notice it. Other things that go along with it. Look at their eyes. You can tell a lot from looking at a rabbit's eyes, or any animal for that matter. If they start to look, their eyes start to look sluggish, or whatever, that's a good indicator there may be something else going on. Watch their behavior. If they're lethargic, don't want to move around a lot, aren't eating well, that's a good indicator that there's something wrong with them too. But if you just saw them sneeze once or twice, I wouldn't worry about it right now. It happens. All right. Hunter says, thanks for all the info. Glad to say my first doe bred today. First breeding ever. My rabbits and quail are a product of this channel. I think I already read that, didn't I? Well, thank you, Hunter. I appreciate that. Oh yeah, you said that when you gave your super chat. I did read that. Sorry. The Fraud Feeder says, what's up? Finally caught a live stream. LOL, I'm eating 3 quail for dinner tonight, stuffed with wild rice. Well, that sounds great. And thanks for joining the live stream. I'm glad you made it. Where are we at here? We're doing okay. We got 8 minutes left or something like that. Aniela says, our time is nearly 20 hours apart of your time in America. We wake up earlier than you are, and getting older earlier than you are. Yeah, I guess there's probably truth to that, huh? And Australia is another place I'd like to visit at some point. Gator says, so if your quail eggs that's incubating and I'm self-turning them, some are rolling back to the same position. Are they not good? Or what could cause that? I don't know that means anything, honestly. It's probably just, they're weighted more on one side than the other. It may mean that they're not good. I don't know that I'd worry about it too much. Honestly, if you're going to be self-turning your eggs, you could do it a number of different ways. You can just reach your hand in there and just kind of roll them around, not that aggressively, but roll them around a little bit a couple of times a day. That's enough. You got to think about it. When a bird is incubating their eggs, they get moved around a little bit, but they don't actually go in there and pick them up and turn them over. And, it's not that precise. You don't have to worry about it that much. What I would do if I was going to hand turn them is I think I would probably prop one into the incubator up just a little bit, not enough to get them to all roll to one side, but prop it up just a little bit on one side and then just rotate that a couple of times a day. And I think that would be enough. But you can do that however you want to. I don't know that I'd worry about those eggs. I really don't know that I can answer that for you. I guess logically it makes sense that if the contents of the egg were all on one side, it might be hard to roll them over, and that may mean that the eggs are bad, but go ahead and try it. Let's see. Vastev says, I miss the simpler times when I used to watch your videos. Well, I think that's a good thing. I think that means that's a compliment anyway. I shouldn't say it that way. And I'm sorry it's not simpler now. But I know what you mean. Sometimes I kind of, not that I want to, simpler times when I used to watch my videos. I don't mean it like that. But I do sometimes miss simpler times when things were a little different. Anyway, Bob says, do you ever clean accumulate? Oh, here, wait a minute. Is that? There's another $5 super chat. Thank you. Says, you need a Discord server for all your fans. I may look into that. I'm not incredibly familiar with that, but I may try to look into it. Thank you for the $5 super chat. I appreciate that so much. Bob says, do you ever clean accumulated sand droppings and other debris crested on the quail's feet, or do you leave it with them and hope it'll eventually fall off? I don't have too many problems with that, but yeah, I do every once in a while find a bird that has some stuff stuck to their feet. I'll usually give it a day or two, and if it's still there, then I'll go ahead and clean it off. But it's not a regular occurrence that I have an issue with. Vastev says, you're a great guy. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Crystal says, hey, Chris, Bobwhite quails do lay eggs in the wintertime. There you go. Thank you for the answer. I appreciate that. Student says, what is the big brown case behind you, and do you own any guns? Yeah, that's a gun case. I think it's empty right now. I think I put I have my shotgun in it. But I put my shotgun up. So yeah, I do own guns. I carry one most days. Anyway, yes, I do. Where are we at here? Emily says my silver fox doe is, or my silver fox is due tomorrow. I lost to California a month ago to a distended uterus. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. I'm sorry to hear that. Good luck with your new kindling tomorrow with your silver fox. Hopefully that goes well. Part of raising animals, sometimes you're just going to lose one for whatever reason, and sometimes bad things happen with them. There's just not much you can do, unfortunately, but I am sorry to hear that it happened. All right, here we go. 5 minutes left. I got to hurry. All right, the frog feeder says, hey, I'm eating some of my quail for dinner. I stuffed them with rice and wrapped them with bacon. What's your favorite recipe? That sounds like a good one right there. I think wrapped with bacon is great. One of my favorite ways to do it, actually I did that creamy Cajun pasta thing a couple of weeks ago. That was really good. I like to cut the breast off the bone so you have two halves, and put some blue cheese or some cheddar cheese in there. Wrap that with bacon. If it's blue cheese, I'll usually do Frank's Red Hot, like a buffalo wing sauce on them, and then bake them until they're done. They're really good that way. Or if it's cheddar cheese wrapped with bacon, barbecue sauce is pretty good on them, and then go ahead and bake them off. Those are really good. Annie Ellis says, how's your beautiful wife? Happy New Year and all the best. Well, thank you. She's doing very well. Thank you. I appreciate that. Emily, my neighbor's got an ATV and the rabbits hate it. They hate the ATV, huh? Yeah. I don't have a good advice for that necessarily. Farmer says, this week 6 litters do, 3 first time and 3 second litters. Thanks for your tips. Well, awesome. 3 litters due, 3 first time, 3 second time. Okay, good luck on all the litters that are coming up, and thanks for watching the videos. I'm glad that they are helpful for you. Gator says, quails, if you use a self-turner and when you turn them, they go back to the same position. Is that good? I'm not an incubator. So, okay, I think I already answered that one question. And Emily says you're in PA. In PA. What was I asking? Or maybe your answer, I can't remember now. I'm sorry. Ibez, he says, love what you're doing. Could you do a video on hydroponics? Well, I don't do hydroponics, but if I did, I would do a video on it. Hydroponics isn't a bad thing. I think there's probably quite a bit to it. The problem I have is that if you guys don't know what hydroponics is, typically, and there's many different ways to do hydroponics. I guess hydroponics is, actually, I'm getting that confused. I was thinking aquaponics, but hydroponics is really just growing plants in water. I do grow some plants in water, and I've talked about that in videos before. Not grow them in water, but tend to start them in water. As far as plants you eat, basil is really easy to start, and that's a good way to extend your basil harvest because basil tends to start bolting about the time your tomatoes are ripe. So if you just pinch off a piece of that basil plant, that tall, the top of it, strip off the lower leaves, stick it in a glass of water for a couple of days, it roots out, and you can plant it and have a whole new basil plant growing all over again. It's almost like endless basil. It's pretty good. Yeah, I may get into some hydroponic stuff at some point and see. If I do, I'll make sure I make videos on it. We'll see. All right. I think there's some conversations going on back and forth. Oh, Bob says, Chris, what camera model do you use in your last video? Great pictures. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, that's my main camera. It's what I shoot most of my videos on. It's a Canon 90D. My new lens is a Sigma 150 to 600. That's the new lens I got. It was kind of expensive. I blew my camera budget for a while on that. All right. Josh says, okay, I was just looking for a pair. Okay, somebody else I think you're talking to. Frog Feeder, can you make a video about your favorite recipe and methods to cook rabbits and quails, please? I've actually done several videos on making, on dinner recipes and things like that. So yeah, I'll try to do more of those as we go. Hey, there's a good idea. Emily says she got a book off Amazon that has 250 rabbit recipes. That's a good suggestion. Also, Living Traditions Homestead has a rabbit cookbook that's pretty good too, so that's another solution. And I think it sells on Amazon as well. If not, I'm sure you can just look up Living Traditions Homestead Rabbit Cookbook, and I'm sure you'll find it. Plus, they're good people, so give them a little bit of support. All right, I think we're done, aren't we? Yeah, we're out of time, guys. I'm sorry if I did not get to your comment or your question. All right, got to wrap it up. I got to quit looking at comments. I got to go spend some time with the family before it's time to go to bed. So thank you guys again for joining tonight. I always enjoy these times. Sorry I wasn't here last week, but everything's fine. I know I freaked some people out. I said that I had had family matters to attend to, and everybody was all concerned about that. It wasn't anything too overly serious, so everything's fine. And again, thank you guys for joining tonight. I appreciate it. God bless each and every one of you. Hopefully we'll see you guys again back here next week. Take care, and good night.